Okay, let's do it, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call to order this Board of Commissioners of Johnson County public meeting this Tuesday, May 27th, 2025 at 10 o'clock a.m. Please pray with us if you care to, and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you bow with me for a moment of prayer, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the abundance of blessings you bestow upon us. And dear Lord, we're reminded of your words, my peace I live with you, my peace I give you. And what a wonderful blessing it is in our lives to be able to turn to you, Lord Jesus, and receive that wonderful peace that you do grant us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board of Commissioners, approval of annual agreements for highway lease agreement with Center Grove Soccer Club. Public comment on this lease agreement. So if we,
First.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you can go first. No, the person presenting. Yeah, go ahead.
Ryan Durrell with South Central Soccer Academy. We're
Is
here
that
to-
microphone on?
Yep.
Hello.
There you are.
Sorry about that. Ryan Durrell with South Central Soccer Academy, Vice President of the Board. We're here in representation of
I
lease
can't hear
agreement.
you, sir.
The lease agreement. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Ryan Durrell with the Soccer Club. We're here on behalf of the lease agreement we have with the Highway Department for the land usage next to the roundabout that is going in to renew that lease.
Any questions for
Thanks, sir. And I know we have some public comment on that. Let's see if you can get that microphone up a little.
My name is Harold Tennant, and my wife and I live and own the property at 4870 West County Road 144. We've been owners of the property since 1996, and we are neighbors to the lot at 4880 that is used by the soccer club described as overflow parking. We're asking the commissioners not to renew the month-to-month lease or the year-to-year lease. It's stated as overflow parking, and it's just used for general parking. It's not just overflow parking. The current property in question is unsafe, it's dangerous. Its invitees use it for general parking and not just for overflow parking. We attempted to contact the soccer club in regards to its unsafe and dangerous condition. We tried to contact them by email May 3rd. We sent another email on May 7th regarding the parking on our property, trespassing, and informed the soccer club again on the 12th about meeting, and we met with them, and we met with them at the access to the overflow parking at the soccer club. As we were meeting with Eric Newton and Matt Wilhoit, described as the DOC, as we were talking to them, a line of cars came off of 144 through the 4880 lot or property. And we informed Mr. Nugent and Mr. Wilhoit that it's dangerous, it's unsafe, and as we were standing there, there was a near accident just 2 feet from us. And we are asking that the soccer club not use that lot. We are asking commissioners not to grant month-to-month lease or a year-to-year lease. The soccer club uses the lot on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday, along with the vehicles door slamming, alarm sounding, invitees just sitting in their cars, letting their car run. And once again, we are asking the commissioners not to give a year-to-year lease or a monthly lease for this property.
Good morning. My name is Felisa Tennant, and I'm asking the county not to renew the lease for the Center Grove Soccer Club to use the adjacent property as an overflow. The decision between the county and the soccer club did not consider how this was going to affect the neighborhood or the neighboring properties. The lot is used, as my husband stated, nearly every day of the week. It was our understanding that the lot was only to be used for the 2 major tournaments that they have during the year, which was in the spring and in the fall. We no longer have quiet enjoyment of our property. The frequent use of this lot has disrupted our lives, and we have to live our lives differently now because of this. This is our home. We hear cars, doors slamming. There are people unknown to me that are on that lot all the time. I don't know these people, nor did I invite them to be near our home. This is a residential area and not a parking lot. The soccer club does not provide any oversight of the lot when the people are there. On Saturday, May 3rd, we were having landscaping done on the west side of our home. I had sent the then president an email indicating to him that we were having landscaping done. I knew there was going to be a backhoe, and I wanted to know if there was any type of a tournament activity that people would be there with children. I never got a response from him. That morning, my husband was out with the backhoe driver. There was a car there were actually 2 or 3 cars that had been parked on our property. My husband went up to the gentleman and told him, look, we have a backhoe. We're trying to protect your car, and the guy got pretty unreasonable with my husband. We shouldn't have to deal with these people. Honestly, they're trespassing on our property, and they shouldn't be there. The soccer club does not provide any oversight to the people that are on that lot. On Wednesday, again, so I had sent an email asking if the soccer club would put up signs, because I had noticed there were signs around the other property that borders it. And they did put up the sign, but on May 7th, as my husband had sent a picture, someone had run over the sign that the soccer club had put up and were sitting on our property. And we have submitted pictures and video of both of that. Over the years, we've done our part to put a border up between us and the soccer club because people don't know where the property lines are. I'm asking the commissioners not to renew this lease because it's unsafe, it's terrible, and you just don't understand what it's like to live next to a parking lot. It's just not safe, and it shouldn't happen. Again, as my husband stated, we met with the president and the director of clubs, I believe was his title. We were standing there in between We were actually on the soccer club's property, and there was a near collision there with people coming in. If we had not asked to meet with the president, with the soccer club to discuss the trespassing issue, he would have never known the dangers of people coming off of 144. If you live in Bargersville, you know 144 is a terrible intersection. We have lived there for almost 30 years. People do not care. They did not use the driveway. They still don't use the driveway. And his suggestion was, and I appreciated his suggestion, we will put up an additional rope to border that off. The next day, on Saturday, around 12:30, I don't know what time their tournament or whatever it was they called it started. At 12:30, the rope was down and people were still pulling off of 144 to get to the overflow lot or to drive through to get to the soccer club parking. Or they were pulling off of the overflow lot onto 144, not using the driveway. I cannot tell you enough how dangerous this is. And the rope, unfortunately, didn't do any good. I'm here today to tell you that the lack of parking on the soccer club's property for the soccer club's guests should not hinder our ability to enjoy our property. We should not be punished. We shouldn't lose the peacefulness of our property because the soccer club has too many teams and not enough parking spaces to accommodate them. We are law-abiding citizens. We've lived in Bargersville for nearly 30 years. We're homeowners and we pay taxes. We request that the Johnson County Commissioners deny the soccer club access to 4840 West County Road 144 as an overflow parking lot. I hope these points highlight the significant impact on the quality of our life and stress the need for the county commissioners to reconsider the lease renewal. Thank you.
Yeah, probably. Luke, you want to speak to this, if you would, please, sir?
Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor. I can't speak to the concerns about parking or which property or damage, anything like that. One thing I can speak to is the use of 144 as an entrance for that parking area. I think we were very clear in the beginning that that was not to happen, that the only access to that parcel for their overflow parking should have come from the north where the soccer fields are. That problem is about to fix itself because we just closed 144 and Morgantown Road today for the roundabout project. There will not be a driveway to that parcel off of 144 when we get to the end of the summer when that's done.
And to be clear, when we did this agreement last year, when we did it says in there too, you can't have the parking, you can't have access to Morgantown. Every time I've been there, there's been no access, the road has been up. But right now, there's a lot of highway material on the property, so I'm not even sure how much you can work on it.
At this point, the eastern part, if you access it from the north, from the soccer club property, there is some space available there. But the bulk of our lot there on the northeast corner of that intersection now has essentially a laydown yard and storage for equipment for that project.
It was not accessible yesterday when I drove from Morgantown at all. It's only accessible through the SCSA parking lot.
Yeah.
And it was, to clarify, because it's been referenced as overflow, it was additional parking, which the entire year because of these events. So it wasn't specific to overflow, it was additional for the entire year because it generates so much business, there are so many people. Unfortunately, there are always gonna be people who don't follow the rules, but every time there are signs, there are markers. We do have deputies there on these events, so there are parking attendants. I've never seen them. We have, it's assigned, you have to sign up for it, so.
So I have a question for the gentleman from the soccer club.
Thank you, Luke.
When this property is utilized, how many cars do you estimate are parking on this parcel?
I bet it holds 60, 70 cars.
60 or 70?
Yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, there's areas you could never park in anyway, just because of the lay of the property.
And I would, one of the thoughts that I had in listening to Mr. and Mrs. Tennant was, what if there was a buffer area between your property and this property where they couldn't park? In other words, a 40 or 50-foot buffer between where they might park and your property. Is that something that you might be agreeable to?
Our position, we don't want the financial responsibility if something happens. We all know what happens when people drive. People just circle around the lot. We don't feel it's safe. We're not-
Well, what I'm talking about is a buffer area that would keep the cars 40 or 50 feet away from your property line.
We're still not comfortable with it.
You're not comfortable with that?
No. We think it's overreach and it's dangerous and it's unsafe. They drop off children and, I sent some video. They drop off kids there and it's just not something that's safe.
Well, I'm respectful of the property owner's right to a peaceful enjoyment of their property. I also understand the soccer club's need, although I'm not thoroughly convinced that they need that on a day-to-day basis, maybe on an occasional overflow situation. I would propose something as I just suggested, some kind of a buffer between the tenant's property and where they might park, and it would have to be a structure that they couldn't take down or remove or whatever. That would give them, I think, a fence, something of that nature. If the soccer club be willing to put a fence up to do that.
If I could say one other thing, safety is one of our number one priorities. We spend a lot of money with the Johnson County Sheriff's Department off-duty officers that are on site, on our property, directing traffic. Now, that doesn't mean they're back there all the time, but we have officers on site that we pay off-duty for all the times that we have more vehicles than not. So those are on rec game nights, tournaments. I mean, there's times we have 6 or 8 officers on site that are patrolling that facility. Yes, we had some concerns too, because we told you guys from day one, I did not want people coming on from 144. And we didn't realize that was happening as much as it was. We've put rope back up. The next day, someone cut it. I talked about that day one. Unfortunately, I can't fix the factor of people doing things that are out of my control, but we're trying to do everything we can to keep people from entering. But now the roundabout is going to solve that issue as it is.
That's our concern.
So you didn't answer my question. Would the soccer club be willing to put a fence up or something of that nature to section off a buffer zone?
Yes, we're willing to work with them.
Okay, thank you. Come up to the microphone if you don't mind. I'll make sure I hear you clearly.
I understand the fact that the soccer club says that there are people out there, and yes, there are people out there during their big tournaments. There are police officers out there. As a matter of fact, probably last year in October, this could have been the year before, we had one of the sheriff's deputies come up to us. My husband and I were sitting on our porch, and they asked us how it went. And we said, well, you know, it went as expected. And he said, well, I just want you to know I had to run somebody off of your property. You know, it comes from their own individuals that supervise the place. I understand, when we met on the 12th, I believe it was, and met with the president and the DOC, he told us that the next time that they would have somebody out there on the property watching the parking on that very next day. There was no one out there because I was out there myself. I have a garden out there, and I don't feel comfortable out there with people around me all the time. You just don't have any idea. If you can imagine living next to the Colts parking lot. It's just, we didn't move in there to live next to a parking lot. We moved in there because it's a residential neighborhood and we love it there. We have lived with the soccer club for nearly 30 years. Now they are right next door to us, and I just can't explain to you how it is unless you are there. Soccer club would have never known the danger of the people coming off of 144 unless my husband and I had met with them and he saw it with his own eyes. I have plenty of video, anything you want to look at.
Thank you. Luke, how much of this property are we going to consume at the roundabout? And are you planning on using this property for equipment storage during the construction phase?
The second question, yes, the contractor will need to use it for storage, but also for the actual construction of the roundabout itself. First question, we have drawn some potential right-of-way lines on that parcel for what we would need in the future. Right now, we have 50 feet from the center of Morgantown Road and 65 feet from 144. So the remainder of that parcel at the moment, we don't have any plans for. If we do at some point decide that we don't need it, I'd probably recommend bumping those right-of-way widths up just a little bit, just to be safe. But our main focus right now is just getting the intersection project done. There's still a pretty good size lot available or area available, even accounting for the right-of-way that we would need for long-term for those two roads.
So if we decide to sell the excess property, we just do a public offering on that? Is that the process for that?
I think we have to auction it, but that's probably a better question for legal.
Do I?
There's a whole process for it, we would have to list it.
So
Public auction.
if we auctioned it off, then there's a possibility that the soccer club could buy it, right?
Potentially, yeah.
Or the tenants could buy it. So I can see that as being an active bidding process. That's where it goes.
We have used it a couple of times, which we mentioned in the agreement, just for temporary material storage. Not very often, but we have pretty long turnaround time between our shop and the White River Township area. So we have gotten some use out of it in that regard. But again, not very often. And we have our other parcel up on Morgantown Road available for that too.
So I think a couple of things might occur here, given what we've heard here this morning, that would possibly help Mr. and Mrs. Tennant. One, with no access off of 144, it might limit the use of this property, as people would have to come in off of Morgantown, I guess, or up in that area and traverse all the way to the southern end of this area to access the parking lot. So you might see a decrease in usage there. The other thing that I would suggest, and I can't make you do anything, I always would just suggest here that if the soccer club's willing to do a fence, that would give you the safety, take the safety factor into consideration there, is keeping cars considerable distance away from your property line. And then maybe even that you could restrict use of this property unless you've got big events, something of that nature, so you don't have it on a day-to-day basis where it's really not needed. Just something to think about as maybe a consideration to help these people. I'm just throwing thoughts out there, but I think that could be a workable solution until we get the roundabout in and then decide what we're going to do with the remaining parcel, and that could take care of itself at that point. What's your thoughts?
The last discussion we had is we were gonna put up the orange snow fence.
No,
Instead of just the rope?
No, they would run over it. It would have to be a more permanent type fence. You know, you could do a T-post and wire fence, something of that nature that's more permanent.
So you
Those orange fences would be much like the signs that you had. They just run over those or back over them or whatever.
So
But you
want
could
us to
do
put in
a fence down through there, you know, T-posts and wire, something of that nature. Wouldn't be very expensive at all and easy to erect. And then possibly maybe have a gate there if you needed it to just restrict it during normal times. I really think once you close off the 144, it's going to cut down on the usage there quite a bit. I don't know, but I know you're shaking your head no, but I guess we'll have to kind of wait and see. But I'm just giving you some ideas. I'd like to see you do something to maybe help them a little bit. I understand the popularity. I've been over there before when events, and when I had my granddaughter playing soccer, I know the volume of people. And you guys have always been good neighbors, so I'm sure you'd be considerate of trying to hear their concerns.
Absolutely. So,
So is that something maybe we could work on to at least try initially, and maybe just do a one-year lease instead of 3, to see how that works out, and then readdress it later? And then, like I said, if this property goes up for bid, you can solve that problem.
sure, I just want to make sure I understand. We have T-posts now with rope. You want something more substantial than the rope. I just want to
Well,
make sure. we're on
yeah,
the same
tell me
page.
how good the rope works.
Well,
There you
again,
go.
I can't fix stupidity.
I think you answered your own
Yes.
question. Well, I would just suggest that maybe we reconsider the lease now instead of a 3-year or 1-year term, and understanding that the soccer club will do some kind of a permanent, or at least fairly permanent fence to give them a buffer zone.
I wanted to clarify too, I don't know if the commissioners have looked at the,
Volume up.
the,
You on? I'm not hearing you.
So the town of Bargersville actually owns that parking lot. So we're talking about a different property owner, the one that butts up to this, just to clarify. So SCSA has the fields, but this property actually butts up to the town of Bargersville's property. So they actually are in control of that parking lot. So it's a little.
Well, Emily, the green outlined parcel, is that not the tenant's residence?
Yes, but it backs up into, that is the town of Bargersville.
This is the town of
not
Bargersville.
SCSA.
This is this. That's a soccer
The
club.
town of Bargersville
Yeah.
does this all the way through. There's a walking path that butts up to the property. So it's actually not SCSA, it's the town of Bargersville.
But we own this parcel that they're
Yes,
parking on.
That backs up into town of
Yeah.
Bargersville. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
that distinction.
I think we need to kind of get things moving along here, but I guess my opinion would be is if it's going to be used as a parking lot, I think there needs to be more of a permanent structure there to keep vehicles off their property. I don't think that's unreasonable request, is to put something up there that stops that. The two concerns I have, number one is if we're going to have construction equipment stored on that lot, as we start construction, do we really want people in and around that equipment to start with, which I think, I don't either, and I think that's a liability issue for us, and I think it's a liability issue for them. Second question is I see where the parking lot is that Bargersville owns. Why can't that parking lot be extended out into this open grass area with some gravel to make that overflow parking for that parking lot that you don't own anyway, and it would be on your property that way? This is an open area from what I'm seeing, and it would be, if you'd utilize that area and put some stone down in there, that would be a permanent fix for you all down the road. And it would also eliminate the need to use that overflow parking in there, and it would be on your property where you control it. It would still back up to their houses, but that all backs up to their houses now anyway. So it would just be on the other side of those trees there, it would be parking instead of that little open area that's there. If you look at the size of it, and once we start using what we're going to use, and you're going to get a lot more area there, and then you don't have an issue regardless of what happens to that lot down the road. If you're not successful or don't want to bid for it or whatever, and I think cost-wise, that'd probably be just as cheap as putting up a fence that would do the same thing basically and blocking that off if you
Give you
spend that money toward the permanent parking on the other side. So I think if I look at the issue at this point in time, I would have to recommend that we do something totally different than what we're doing. And I don't know what that is. I think that's something that we'll need to have a discussion about.
I think you said 1 year, so.
I have a big problem with the liability of that equipment on a full-blown construction site going on with the roundabout there and having people come in. And a lot of those people aren't from local. They're from.
They don't
out of
care.
town. They're not local, which concerns me for liability for you being on that lot and for us being the overall owners. So that's my big concern. I think if Brian had a really good suggestion, if you pull that parking lot, the paved lot back there, pull it gravel and come over, you're gonna gain your amount of parking spaces there, and we don't have the issue on the property anymore. So,
It really eliminates the problem totally.
yeah. So,
We use that for parking already.
on the grass,
I think if you designated it, I mean, if we're talking about overflow parking, and we're talking about for the bigger events, as we talked about today, if we restrict that to the bigger events, you're gonna have less parking anyway. So I think sooner or later, you're gonna have to do something on that property to create parking for that. Because I agree with Kevin. At this point in time, I think the only motion that we have would be to table.
yeah, I would table it for right now until we come up with a better solution,
Second.
so. And we'll look at it, we'll actively look at it and see if there is some other, probably meet with both of you in person, and we'll try to figure out something what to do. But for us to make a decision today, I don't think it's prudent for us to do that, so.
I have a motion, a second, and table, and I want everybody to understand, this is not something that I'm taking lightly, and I don't think any of you are. I don't think the soccer club is, I don't think the attendants are. I think everybody's trying to get to a position where it's all workable, and I appreciate that. But unfortunately, we have to make some decisions, and those decisions aren't taken lightly. So I think this time, as we table this, so we can move forward into legal discussions, also as well as just common sense judgments that we have to make to move forward. So
The big tournament, if I'm remembering, is June 8th, so we would need full getting.
we may have to have a temporary solution for that one tournament at this time, whether it be more security or something, but those are things that we'll take into consideration prior to making this decision. But all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all for coming, and I appreciate your patience and tolerating us being able to have some discussion on this. Court Services Consulting Agreement, you came in early, then you, consulting agreement with Hopolite LLC. I don't have any.
No, I'm good, I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval for grant, thanks. Approval for grants.
Wayne Burgess, Johnson County Sheriff. We have the normal CHIRP 2025-2026 grant, Indiana Criminal Justice Institute. And I'd like to add two others that we have, the Safe Outcomes, Enhancing De-escalation and Crisis Response Training for our law enforcement. And the other grant that we would be applying for is Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act Program. If we could apply for all three, that would be great.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sheriff. Approval of CR Stafford and Associates proposal for Juvenile Center entrance repair project. And I just want to make sure that I remind us up here that there has to be a $1,500 initial payment to be made upon executing this proposal, which we'll have to probably pull from somewhere out of our budget, professional services or something, until we get cost and insurance involved in this. For those of you that don't,
I would have been,
Know what that is?
happy with the ratification on this to move this process along.
yeah, if those you don't know, this is where the truck ran through our juvenile detention center front access area, I guess. So anyway, that's just for your information.
I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ratification of Worcester Construction Change Order Number 39 for Behavioral Health Building Project.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Execution of Health's First Indiana Agreement on behalf of Johnson County Health Department.
There's Betsy.
Did he move to approve?
No. He's waiting for Betsy, I think, unless you're,
No, I mean, I think it's a bunch of crap, but, I mean, not on our part, I think on the state's part, but we're gonna move to approve what we've got. That's all we can do at this point.
is
Unless
this,
you gotta add something to that.
is this considering anything as far as where the monies now are going, or is this just about next?
Betsy
26?
Swearingen, Johnson County Health Department. This is this year's funds.
Okay.
And then I do believe that we will have enough with next year's budget and some carryover funds. The funds are, by statute, they want the funds spent within the fiscal year. However, if we attempt to spend them and we cannot spend them, then we can roll them over. So hopefully we'll be able to sustain this next year as well, too.
Okay, and that's my question. We have some
The
funds.
full amount.
We have some funds right now that are designated in other areas. Can those be designated to the Behavioral Health Center this year?
Well, this year, we already have a full amount. We had that full amount sustained for them. We have them in a line item already. It's
But-
already there and ready to
but-
go. Am I not answering that right? I'm sorry.
But we're going to get less next year for that same ability. So what I would like to see us do is we have funds. I think there's about 600,000, am I correct? That are designated that can go other places. I say we designate those to go to the Behavioral Health Center to make up the difference in what we were looking at next year. Can we do that at
We
this
could,
point?
sure, we could do that.
Is there an issue, you had mentioned they have to be spent within, so can you redesignate them even if they're supposed to be spent?
Yes, and the thought kind of pattern was that we have the money for this year, then we take the full amount for next year with the residuals from this year and spend those, so that we have 5 or 6 different categories of money that we are not spending, not that we're not spending right now, we just haven't had the attention towards it that we thought we were gonna get. We thought we would have more interest in whatever. So those monies because we're attempting to spend them and we can't spend them, will roll to next year. So we will have the money for the behavioral center next year as well,
No, understood.
regardless of whether or not we spend the 600,000 on it this year.
But to me, those funds going to that would be more productive for our citizens in Johnson counties than some of the other things that we may be looking at to spend those other funds on, unless somebody can tell me there's a real important thing we're going to use those for, and I don't think you can tell me that. I really don't.
Those funds just hit more of the, like, more than one of the core services where the behavioral health hits maybe 1.5. So that was kind of the look, and we were only going to get one chance to spend those funds this way this year, and we never will get that chance again. So I think that's what we were looking at. But I understand,
And
whatever.
Yeah, I understand
Okay.
that too, but there again.
Understood.
You know what I think of those funds anyway.
I know.
And the uses that we're using those funds for, I don't feel like that we're doing the right thing.
Understood.
For Johnson County, that's why we had a problem with this to start with, is
Okay.
because we felt like those funds weren't being used properly or given out properly, and they're still not given out. I
Without,
like to
yeah,
see
they're all
some of those-
sitting there. They haven't been touched, so.
I like to see some of those funds go to these other needy counties. We discussed that originally, that, you know, we had, and we know we can use that to help other counties that are maybe in more need of certain areas than we are. And I think we just need to relook at that whole
The only
thing.
thing I would disagree with that, why are we stepping in for the state when the state should be doing their due diligence for those other counties? Not us supporting it through our, that we need to take care of. That's the only disagreement I have. The state has botched this up, and I think the state should step up and take care of those counties that are underfunded or not utilized, not looked at as well as they should have been. You know that. We agree with that out of the box.
We do, but, you know,
I just don't want to see.
we also said we weren't going to take those funds because of the misuse of those funds, and now we have the opportunity to make the right use of those funds and let the state take the black eye for not doing them properly to start with.
We have helped other counties, I will say.
Understood.
This year already with things like asbestos bridge inspections and lead case management with an XRF machine that we were able to purchase with funds that we have, and we work hand in hand with the smaller counties that don't have those programs. We're currently working with them now. So we are doing that. We've actually been lucky we haven't had to touch those funds. We've been able to maneuver that with other funds that we had. So we will continue to work with this other counties that need our help, and we do have funds set aside for that.
Well, and I just, you know, I'm traveling around the state, as I think some people know or are aware, and I've visited now a lot of counties. Talked to a lot of commissioners, a lot of health representatives in those counties that are losing, because of what they're doing this year, losing funds that they got dependent on. You can't give somebody money and tell them not to get dependent on it. I don't care what the state says and what options that they give you. Those counties got dependent on those funds. And now those funds are being taken away from those counties, and I'll mention a couple, Benton, Jasper. They're desperate. They have been hurt terribly by what the state did in reducing those funds, because they got dependent on that for those 2 years they used it. So I just feel like that's probably a better use for those funds in helping out our brothers and sisters in other counties than using them for stuff we really don't need to use it for. Or it's not a must for us, it's a must for them. That's my point.
And there's some things that we're already doing, from the WIC standpoint, you know, as far as reaching out to other counties. We've set one up in Shelby County, Tracy's running that now. There's a new one going up in Greenwood. It's probably gonna take care of, a lot of Marion County.
A lot of Marion County.
Is what that's gonna be, and a lot of Greenwood residents. So, I mean, I just want the public.
Marion
to
County
know
got a lot of money.
We are doing things outside of our counties to help surrounding counties.
And I get that, but Marion County got a lot of money. They're one of the ones that got a lot of money in this whole deal.
I know.
I go back to, I was right on both accounts, ladies and gentlemen. Number one, I told you they'd use those funds to help try to control us. That was actually put in a bill this year that they tried to ram down our throats, that we were going to lose HFI funds because of a bill that was going to be passed if we didn't agree to do what they asked us to do. And then secondly, I told you they'd cut that budget. Not only did they cut it in half, they cut it by 60%. So it's going right down the line of what I said it was going to do. And as Betsy knows, and I think you agree, I've been right every step of the way. And I'm telling you, this isn't going to get better. It's going to get worse. The same counties that got most of the money last time are going to get the money again. I'm tired of hearing it from a gentleman on our council. It's gotten egregious in being attacked for the funds that we didn't take the first year that helped out some of these other counties. This thing hasn't been right from day one. It's wrong, it's all wrong, and I think we need to step up and help correct it. And we have tried. I've tried at the state level. I've been there trying, but this is just wrong. And I think we need to do whatever we need to do to make sure they understand that it wasn't done properly to start with.
I will agree with that as long as we do not discord our Johnson County residents. There has to be a fine line, and I guess we'll have to figure that out, but
We have 250, right? That's right now.
Yeah, there's 250,000 in there for aid to other counties. It's there, we've made it vocal. I've heard nothing, so, I mean, I'm willing, the saddest thing is we're not even at June 1, we're not even 6 months into this. We have no way of even measuring what it's done for our county and what it hasn't done for our county because we haven't even had our first 6 months of reporting yet. Now, we're better because we report monthly, so we do have a lot of that data in there, but they haven't analyzed any of it. I do know that we do have a few really good programs that we have funded this year, and I would hate to see us not be able to still help do that because those are things that are very pertinent for residents of Johnson County.
And I'm not asking to do anything with those funds.
Okay.
I'm talking about the funds that I know.
I know which
they're
fund,
sitting there,
funds,
yeah.
I know, that was kind of just a fun, neat thing that we thought we were gonna be able to one and done for the county for things that we never would have been able to fund, but I understand that completely if they need to go somewhere else.
So
I
Betsy,
don't know how to solve that at this point.
given the timeline on your budget submission, do we need to include in this budget that you're going to submit the roughly 600,000 for the behavioral health facility, or I thought you referenced it just roll over and next year it could be utilized?
That's what we're trying to determine right now. So if we attempt to spend it and we can't spend it, it rolls over. I don't know how a budget works on that yet because we're brand new to this. I don't know how that process works. I know that by midnight Saturday morning, Friday, 11:59 p.m. on Friday evening, I owe a budget to the State Department of Health for the 800 and, what is it, 45,900 and something
Yeah.
dollars for next year. I think
Yeah,
I'm pretty
and
close.
I mentioned that as maybe we need to memorialize that 600,000 in that budget. I don't know, it's up to you. You know more about that.
We don't have to touch those funds right now. We can talk
Okay.
about how to spend those. I just will plan on budgeting the full amount of funds towards the Behavioral Health Center for next
Well,
year.
you know our thoughts, so.
Well, and again, it's not us.
I'm not saying
I think
that.
everybody knows who I'm going after.
I know.
It's not us. We're doing what's right, and I understand that, but
We're
this
trying.
thing was set up wrong
Oh,
to start with.
We knew that from the get-go,
Yeah.
and we anticipated this, and we had planned, like a perfect example is Drug-Free Johnson County. We were able to fund the remaining grants that they couldn't fund fully for their grantees that applied for things that were pertinent for their programs. And so we did, and then they said, hey, can we come back and ask for more money? And I said, that's probably not a good idea because we can't be your sustainability moving forward because we don't know if these funds are gonna be here next year. And lo and behold, we're 70% less than we thought we were gonna be.
Oh, imagine that.
But we did think thoughtfully on that.
And I know we did, and
Okay.
that's, we have worked together. I appreciate us being able to work together, and I think the council's worked with us well on this to try to figure this out. I think Johnson County's doing everything right, as we always do.
Okay.
I just have an issue with the way this went down, and when we knew it was gonna go down this way. It's terrible that we think far enough ahead that we can see this coming, but evidently nobody else is, so.
See, now we should be able to win the lottery, okay? But we don't.
You got to play to win.
I know. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Betsy.
I move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, aye. Motion carries 2-1. New Johnson County opioid remediation grant disbursement with an application window of June 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025.
We are opening our opioid advisory board grant application process. So if everyone remembers, we made the first disbursement last year at the end, so December 2024. So the applications will open June 1st, will close June 30th. They can be submitted to the commissioner's office. It'll be on the website, hopefully the Daily Journal does something about it. So we get the information out there. In addition.
No pressure.
Yeah. So we're sending the information to our partners, which, that we're working with on the advisory board, which is Bargersville, City of Franklin, Trafalgar.
You had to name them, you're gonna miss one.
Yeah, I know.
So I would just say
So
all the
all of them?
county entities
Yeah.
except for Greenwood.
So we're trying to get the information out there. We have around 250,000 that we would like to disperse by the end of the year. So to keep that program going for Johnson County. So look for the website and do the journal and welcome the applications.
No vote needed on that?
Nope, just wanted to tell you.
Interlocal agreement with Town of Whiteland, Indiana, pending legal.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'm not gonna bore you with that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Motion passes 2-1. Animals, that's the first time I voted no twice in my whole life. You
Yeah,
know
I
that,
think
right?
so.
It's
It's
first
a
time
new
we've had
record.
2 no votes in one meeting since I've been around.
That's terrible, that's terrible. Animal shelter, ordinance 2025-0-9, and ordinance amending Title 15 of the Johnson County Code of Ordinances, second reading.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of preventative maintenance agreement with Gatekeeper Services, Inc.
Move to approve.
Yeah, second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'm trying to get through this for you, Carrie. Approval to approach council for fund reallocation from the Latour Fund and donation fund.
We missed
You skipped one.
Did I miss one?
the usage fell on one.
Oh, yeah, we have to, let's go ahead and vote on what I just did and we'll go back to that.
Move to approve.
I'll move to approve. Unless discussion on Latour.
You're seconding that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Well, let's, discussion.
Okay, the Latour fund was there restrictions on that fund? I remember that fund going into
Yes, there was.
place and they were using it for.
It has to benefit the animals, so this,
Care, isn't it, Care?
yeah, animal care.
Yeah.
So this, what we're moving it for is for spay neuter surgeries, emergency care, things like that. So it would just be medical on the animals.
It's
Okay.
it's
I just saw
legitimate.
professional services, I just wanted an explanation of what
Yes.
those professional services were. So,
Yep, all vet bills.
I'm good, I just.
It's a legitimate use of the fund. Yeah, we looked at that to make sure. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, request of county vehicle use for conference in Bloomington, Illinois, June 1st through June 3rd. This is something we don't get too often of out of state, taking a vehicle out of state. We have done it in the past, but just on 1 or 2 occasions that I know of, so I thought y'all ought to.
I guess I'm gonna ask the reason for the county vehicle, you're taking multiple people in that vehicle.
There's 2 people going and neither of them filled their personal vehicles could safely make it there and back. So they've requested, it's 2 of the animal control officers, they've requested to use one of the vehicles to go.
I know, that's a toughie. I will say, though, we have used county vehicles to get animals to other areas in this faraway areas, not states away, but at least at borders or close to states in other areas, as far as being able to move animals to rescues and things like that. So,
We do have one rescue that's like 3.5 hours away that we go to a couple times a year. This is closer.
I move to approve. Then you can stipulate which vehicle. You got a better knowledge of that than I do, or Carrie.
It could be any really of the officer vehicles, but I assume it would be the one.
I assumed it would be the one that I drive. It just has the seal on it.
Right.
It's a Durango, less gas.
So the use of it during that period of time is not going to hamper your operation?
No, if we have an emergency where we have to take an animal to a vet, we'll take one of the bigger animal control vehicles.
Have a motion? I'll second it. Here we go, see? I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-1.
Thank
That's
you.
that's the theme for the day. 2-1
Seems
motion.
to be.
Thank you.
I just don't want the floodgates to open.
I think we need to limit the use of those, and that's why we're discussing it. So I think we're okay. Planning and zoning, Watt Development LLC, Water's Edge.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Zoning ordinance 2000, excuse me, -Z-2.
Michelle Hanser, Director of Planning and Zoning. Before you is an ordinance that will remove about 2 acres from the Lincoln Park Plan Unit Development Ordinance that was approved in 1999. This is subject to a successful annexation into Greenwood. Because it is a plan unit development, which is a different guiding documents in our standard zoning ordinance, it's going to clear up the path for Greenwood if they choose to accept the annexation, to annex that in without it being contiguous to that planning and development. This is only an ordinance that would be successful if Greenwood would annex the property. If it is not annexed to the property, it remains as it is today without ordinance approval.
So I got a question for either Mr. Jackson or Eric, one or the other, in regard to reading through the materials presented to us. It references that the developer has requested and/or gotten approval to connect to the utilities, Greenwood sewer system. And that was a point of contention early on in this, and then, of course, we talked then about annexation and why they wouldn't annex. Greenwood was reluctant, as I understood, to annex at the time due to the TIF that's in place on that property. Can somebody give me some clarification on that, where we're at in regard to the TIF and the city of Greenwood?
Eric Prime Van Valer Law Firm on behalf of the petitioner. Mr. West, I am not aware of any agreement in place to connect to the sewer system. That's actually what got us here into this whole situation to begin with. The developer has ground under contract east of this that is all within the city.
Right.
That had already been approved for the development of age-restricted rental homes, rental housing. And they were able to acquire this parcel in Lincoln Park that would allow them to expand that development. And so in doing that, they looked into the provision of utilities. They also considered a unification of development standards, and that is a big deal. I mean, if you're talking about straddling the county line out of the city of any municipality, you're going to have a situation where you have different development standards, different architectural standards, different landscaping standards, and it makes it difficult to develop a unified single development to two different standards. So that it's all part and parcel, but that's why we requested the amendment to the PUD to remove just that section, which is called Phase 3, from the PUD, which would then allow the annexation into the city, and then the city would control in a unified manner, the development.
Tiffany, what was the paragraph that I referenced on that? I'm having trouble finding it on my thing here.
Well, just, it might help you answer. I did receive I emailed Heather James, our RDC attorney, and she did say that, you know, if they annex, what they have to do is they would have to create an overlapping portion of the TIF because they would have to have an allocation area. So they would then take the TIF that is generated, it would not come to the county, it would come to the city, and then they have to complete the process. So if it would effectively terminate the TIF through their process. So to answer your question, they can do it. It is a more cumbersome process for the city of Greenwood because these parcels are TIF'd already. I thought your question was just in relation to the sewer.
Now, my question is, under utilities, in this agreement, under the subtitle utilities, it says all necessary utilities are available on site or can be extended to Lincoln Park. The developer has secured commitments and/or approvals from all of the requisite utility providers for facilities to be extended and service provided specifically.
So what you're referring to is.
But Eric said that that's not the case.
Okay, so what you're referring to is the ordinance from the 1991 that created the plan unit development ordinance. So that was the same language that's still in existence, and that's something that it's just, we're not amending that part of the ordinance, and I don't think it's part of the request to remove phase 3 from the ordinance.
Yeah, so what's confusing to me is in that 1991 agreement that you just referenced, apparently utility service had been secured for this parcel, right?
I mean,
Under the plan unit development, utilities had been secured for this parcel.
I'm assuming, yeah, 1999, yeah. But, I mean, that's the ordinance that was adopted then.
So the question now is, under the plan unit development, could that not be amended to include Mr. Jackson's project?
Well, he's already in, I mean,
Huh?
phase 3 is already in.
Yeah, you need to get to the microphone, Eric.
Phase 3 is already in the PUD, but there is no sewer service. So whatever that said in 1999, I have no idea. I wasn't part of that, and neither was he. That was a different developer in a different
Well,
time.
obviously, when that PUD was initiated, that utility service was agreed to and provided. I mean, Lincoln Park has it already. I'm not so sure that the city's not obligated to provide service to that parcel under this agreement. Did you say 99 or 91?
1999.
Huh?
1999.
99. So I'm not so sure that Greenwood's not already obligated to provide services under this agreement. If the PUD can be amended to include Mr. Jackson's project, why don't we just do that and go from there? It looks like they're obligated to provide services under this agreement.
That would be between you guys and Greenwood.
Yeah, I don't know that I can make that argument. We weren't part of that contract. The PUD does say that, but that was an ordinance adopted by the county, not by the city.
Yes, but the PUD was adopted.
By the county.
Yeah, and so by adopting the PUD, we can make changes within it, obviously, to include a project of this nature, I would assume.
Well, he's already in the PUD, at least the parcel is. The only change to the PUD that he would need if it were to stay in the county is the uses are prescribed as commercial. This would not be a commercial use, it's a residential use. So there would need to be an amendment to the PUD
Well,
to allow his
even
development.
that.
That seems to be not a big issue.
This is considered residential?
It,
I thought it was multifamily.
it's a rental product, but it's residential.
But
So
isn't it
it-
multifamily?
No. They
No?
would be single.
Individual?
I mean, they're like townhome pods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you talked to Greenwood about annexation?
We sure have. There is actually a filing in place right now to
And
do
they're-
that, that's
they're
running
agree-
concurrently.
Agreeable to the annexation and service?
We don't know yet, because that hasn't taken place. We started that process right after we started this process, so they're running concurrently, but we have not had those hearings yet. And this amendment is contingent on them annexing. If they do not, then it stays back in the PUD. It falls back to how it was. That's the way your staff set this up, and we're agreeable to that. But we can't take the next step with the city until the county decides what it's going to do. So my client's just been stuck in between this situation for about the last 6 months, trying to figure out how to move forward with this project. It's a really good project. It's going to benefit county citizens and city citizens to have this type of housing available. It's a shame that it's kind of getting stuck in the middle.
Yeah. So what's confusing, I guess, to me at this point is, I thought all along that the reluctance to provide sewers was because of the TIF we had in place, but apparently if it's residential, the TIF, there would be no TIF application anyway, huh? I'm all for Mr. Jackson getting his project in, let me just say that right here. And if doing this PUD change is a way to allow that, I'm not necessarily opposed. What I am struggling with here is Greenwood makes all these obligations and never upholds them. And then as a consequence, we suffer because of that. And I'm still to the point now where there has to be a day of reckoning between the county and the city of Greenwood in regard to utility services. That kind of puts you guys in the middle, I understand that, but.
Yeah, we're hopeful that that day of reckoning comes, but comes after you let Mr. Jackson move forward with his project, because
Yeah.
it's really been stuck in the mud here trying to get this.
And this is a worthy project. I like what he's proposing there. He's got, I assume the other parcel that's in Greenwood's ongoing right now or ready to go. I'll move to approve the PUD change, the PUD change to help Mr. Jackson in this regard, and then we'll continue to try to settle our differences with the city of Greenwood.
Thank you.
Now, now we have to listen to Michelle because they made no recommendations on this in their staff report. Do you want to explain why?
Well, first of all, it was a board of 5 where we usually have 9 members in attendance. So we honestly had to have a unanimous vote to move forward. I think there were some open-ended questions and concerns about drainage and stormwater, but honestly, that's outside this annexation or this amendment to this ordinance, and something that we can work with Greenwood and our stormwater department to figure out what the best solution is for stormwater. But I think people were concerned about drainage and stormwater, which again, that's not what was asked of the Planning Commission at that moment, because we're not considering development, we're just considering amending the ordinance. That therefore, if Greenwood annexes it, they can, handle the stormwater and stuff like that.
And your board came back with a no recommendation.
There was very minimal conversation. I think that at one point, there was a motion to do favorable, but it was split. So I think the board was compelled that if they want to move this forward, we probably should have a 5-0 vote, and it was no recommendation.
Yeah, no recommendation doesn't mean no, doesn't mean yes. It just means they're not they're impartial at this point.
But we put people in positions to make decisions, not to just pass the buck. That's why we put people on boards, so.
Well, unfortunately, that board meeting was not well attended, and I wasn't there. I was out of town, and I apologize for not being able to be there. to help in that regard. As Michelle referenced, typically there's 9 members. And at the last minute, they got Charlie Canary out of the fields to make 5, so they would have a quorum.
Have a motion. Are we gonna let it die?
I just don't like why we got to this position. We tried to work with them in the past. It has not always been beneficial for either party, I don't think. It's created a lot of contingency. I'm bringing up a lot of stuff because there's a lot of background to this, not just this issue. I will say one thing. I'm going to tell Mayor Myers that I'm going to second this, but I'm hopefully opening the door to new relationship with the city of Greenwood. Let's start over, fresh light, and let's move forward from here. So that's my lengthy second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Sounds like there might be.
It could be, but all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And I apologize to you gentlemen for having to be involved in this. And it's a shame that we have 2 governmental agencies that can't seem to work things out in the way they should be worked out. And that is our fault, not yours. But thank you for your patience. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Waltz, not with the God's ears.
Don't think so, but we can always be hopeful. Sorry. Thank you very much. Veteran Services requested to attend the RISE 25 conference May 28th through the 31st in Orlando, Florida.
COVID's over. Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries 2-1.
Wow, we've got a lot going today.
Highway. Go ahead, Luke. You take it.
Luke Maston, Highway Supervisor. It is Ron's favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
It's time for the annual report.
And I have to compliment you on the report this year. You had the mathematical part of it in sequence that's understandable and not backwards like you tended to have done in the past. I tried to
felt sorry
read
for
through
you
it,
this year.
but given the exceptions here and exceptions there and additions here and the whatever there, I was, as you suspected, totally confused. But I'm going to take your word on it. It's
Appreciate
good. A lot of numbers. I'm amazed, Luke, at how you're able to put all of this together every year and digest it. And it is a lot of work, a lot of funds, and a lot of expenditures in a variety of areas.
Above my pay grade.
Yeah, and I love numbers, I normally try to make heads or tails out of a lot of it, but
Well, I didn't sleep last night studying because I thought you'd have all sorts of questions for me.
well, I had all sorts of questions, and then I realized that they didn't make sense, so I just let them go. So I'm going to move to approve this
I'll second it because I.
annual operational report.
I have a motion and a second. That's why you make the big bucks, Luke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
We finally have
Aye.
figured out why.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I was looking for those escrowed funds for Bridge 206. I thought I saw it in there. It was like 800-some thousand, or no, it was more than that, because you had the federal funds, I guess, or state funds incorporated at 2 million something.
Yeah, it was 602 And we have a remaining balance of about 1.3 or 1.4 in the general fund that we transferred from the bridge fund.
Yeah.
But we also have a balance in cap as well. So we have plenty of money to meet our obligation.
Yeah, okay.
Again, on the next two, let's, if you don't mind, to speed things up a little bit, let's take 2 and 3 together, approval of approach council and approval for auction surplus, because I don't think we need a whole lot of discussion on that.
You can do all three if you want.
Let's do all three of them.
I can move to approve 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, sir.
Thank you.
I just made your job easy. You stayed up for nothing.
That's why I put the report first.
Yeah, stayed up all night for nothing. Claims and credit card, commissioners, minutes, 4/14/25 regular meeting, 4/28/25 regular meeting, and 4/28/25 cumulative bridge fund public hearing and meeting.
Claims, I had a couple, and Libby, as always, took care of those for me. I moved to approve claims, and if you want, I'll go ahead and move to approve the
I just put them all
regular
together because I
meeting
figured you
minutes
could do
and the
that.
Cume Bridge public hearing.
If you had any questions, you'd ask.
No?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Now, a couple fun things. Sheriff, if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce for you, if you would, Sheriff, since you're the head guy, introduce our CIT team, and they weren't available to be here at the last meeting, and I wanted to make sure we recognize these ladies and gentlemen for the fine job that they're doing and winning of an international award. I'm thoroughly just proud of everything that we've done and where we're moving forward and how we're known nationally. And I just want to say thank you very much. But Sheriff, if you don't mind coming up and introducing them, bringing them forward, and so that they get the recognition that they deserve.
Heather, Shannon, Chad, and Jim Ingmark, they do a tremendous job. I think we've just taken our CIT. I remember talking to Jim, wow, it's been a few years ago, just what we wanted to do with mental health and the sheriff's office. We saw what other agencies were doing. And I know it was kind of a battle because a lot of times the financial part becomes an issue. And hey, what's everybody, we're going to create the will. It's not everybody else. And that's what we've done in Johnson County. We've created a will, and they're the best team in the state of Indiana, if not the United States. And we're going to continue to take it to the next level. And they do a tremendous job. And it's nice. I remember Doug Carter was the state police superintendent, and I told him we had a full-time therapist on staff. State police doesn't even have that. So that's something that's just awesome. Very proud of it.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say in all that we've done, I think that the benefit of this program and what we've done in this county has shown just exactly what I've said over the years is when we need to come together, this county comes together and we do something that we can be proud of. And I'll guarantee you that God is blessing this and God's proud of what we're doing too. So thank you very much to you all. And I want to make sure that your faces were brought forward and that everybody understood the job that you're doing. And I know it's tireless, but the integrity and the dedication that you all have shown to this process is beyond amazing. It's over and above by far. So thank you very much for helping our citizens.
Thank you, everybody.
It's
We'll be
easy to
denying
support.
international travel on this.
Yeah, if you're going to the Queen Elizabeth, that's not going to happen.
I just want to say that our new behavioral health facility is really designed and intended to support your efforts, what you're doing out there each and every day. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate you.
Something else I wanted to,
See, I know you couldn't just do that.
I'm going to play Ron today. I'm just kidding, just kidding. In May 11th through the 15th, 16th, I'm sorry. Myself, Major Fisher, two guys from the FOP that are members of the Sheriff's Office and our Sheriff's Office sickle team. We traveled to Washington, D.C. for Police Week. And the two guys from the FOP were able to walk up survivors' families to place the flower. And just to see the Sickle guys doing that. There was over 400 motorcycles there, and people are like, wow, that's a lot to use. But everywhere those survivors and those family members go in DC, they're escorted. And it was something, we're going to go back, we'll do it again next year, but it's just an honor to take part in it. And I don't know how many people from the National FOP and other, Indiana has a big group of folks that are there. And just to have our folks there and participating was, Johnson County's doing great things, and I'm glad that we're able to do stuff like that anywhere in the United States to show what we're doing. So, thank you.
Appreciate you going, sir, and I'll be joining next year. If and Sheriff and I have had a chat about that, I'll be paying my own way, just so everybody knows. But I will be joining that next year because I'm so impressed with that, what's going on out there, that I want to be a part of that as Johnson County. So thank you very much. If I live that long, Sheriff. You know, I'm old, baby. Public comment, we have Jeremy Pale that wants to speak to us about mobile integrated health. Some more good stuff.
Do you believe that? I just got told by the sheriff that there's a 2-minute limit. Has he ever been on a 2-minute limit?
Well, you have to know I got a new gavel now. I'm going to try to use that at least once this year before Kevin takes it away from me.
I said no gavels.
Jeremy
And I
Pell,
voted just one.
Jeremy Pell, Chief of the White River Township Fire Department, and
Betsy Swearingen, Director of the Health Department.
so we have a good story to tell as well. I want to tell you about Mobile Integrated Health, which is the complement to the Sheriff's Department, CIT, but on the fire and EMS side. So we have one of these crises, and CIT responds with the Sheriff's Department. Our Medic 5 Mobile Integrated Health shows up with our team and works with the Sheriff's Department. I remember several years ago that Commissioner Baird sat me down and said, I want Johnson County to be the standard by which others are measured. And I knew exactly what that means because I know his servant heart and all of you. And I know that that's citizen focused, and I know that's making a real difference, not anything ethereal. It is making a difference in people's lives. So I want to share 3 points with you that are truly making a difference in Johnson County citizens' lives. The first one is that your health department and your fire departments and your sheriff's department are all working together like one team. We work operationally like one team, because that's what makes a difference in people's lives. Betsy has formed the Johnson County EMS Task Force, and we have CIT members and our mobile integrated health and medical directors and Greenwood. Am I forgetting anyone? No. We all sit in the room and say, how can we serve better? Betsy has supported this mobile integrated health. We send referrals to her office so that they can follow up and deal with non-fatal opioid overdoses and get ahead of it. Because we would rather heal those patients emotionally and mentally than keep going on overdoses. And Betsy runs that part of it. She teaches us. The second point is we're managing EMS calls. And what I mean by that is we are going to deal with these citizens either way. We're going to serve these citizens with our entire heart. I would rather improve their quality of life and save their lives than keep going on 911 calls. If we can get a little bit ahead of it, and we can put a CIT team and a mobile integrated health team and a health department team with a particular family, we might be able to save the next overdose or prevent the next overdose or prevent the next crisis. Or, I'm going to give you some statistics, we might be able to save a fall that ends up being a catastrophic injury for an elderly patient. And then thirdly, I wanted to point out that we are improving the quality of life, and I've got a very short story for you. We responded on what's called a lift assist. People fall and they can't get up, and they live alone. They don't need to be in a nursing home. They need to be in their home, but they need somebody to get them up. We showed up. She had a dog, and she had been on the floor for days, hours, I don't know what. Transported her to the hospital. She said, I'm not going to go unless somebody takes care of my dog. Our crews helped out with that. I know that Animal Shelter helps provide food and follow-up care for animals. That's part of this partnership as well. Our crews took care of the dog, cleaned up the mess, got the dog secured. Our mobile integrated health medic followed up with the patient in the hospital. Unfortunately, she had terminal cancer. That's why she passed away. No family locally. Our medic connected her with her sister. They reconciled the relationship. They got an attorney in the hospital room. They got the estate at least stable. And unfortunately, people pass away, but fortunately, we helped heal that family and get her situated. So that's what our program does. I want you to know how big of a deal it is that we work together. Just some quick data points so you understand. The last quarter of 2024, White River Township Fire Department had 240 patient encounters. So a quarter, 3 months, 43 unique patients. We did 40 referrals. We created 26 services for them. And when I say services, that could be a referral for substance use disorder, maybe help with food, utilities. We've rebuilt steps so people don't fall. We show up and do safety assessments. We did 12 assessments in that time. One of them, I'm not real sure what it is. What's an ADL? IADL assessment, Betsy, you know? Okay, anyway, we did assessment, we did fall assessments, home safety assessments, clinical opioid withdrawal scale, and then the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale, and made referrals to the health department. Those are my encounters. We had 240 outcomes, and 69% of those were successful outcomes. That does not mean that they live forever. It means that they have a quality of life, that we fixed whatever their current issue was, getting them the right counseling, picking up their rugs so they don't fall again, etc. So I never thought I'd be a public speaker, but we have a story to tell, and it's a very, very good story. And I want you to know that thanks to you, you guys have mentored me and guided us and led our county and made a difference. I make different decisions today than I did years ago when we started working together. You've got a lot to be proud of in your leadership and in what your health department, your sheriff's department, and your fire department does.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it, Chief. Thank you, Betsy. Appreciate that.
Thank you too, very much.
Questions?
And again, just a direct quote for that, what you said, my quote that I made is, "We are the standard to which all others are compared." And we absolutely are. And I appreciate you taking that and running with it, all of you, in doing the things that you've done for the citizens of this county. I'll say this, that you'll find no more dedicated people in our public service, including us up here, that are more dedicated to the citizens of Johnson County than what we have today in the past, and I don't know that you'll see any better in the future in how we do things in this county. But thank you all very much. You're the reason that we are who we are and where we are.
Yep.
Every day, every minute. So
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was adjourned.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.